What is going on, you guys? Today I have another episode for you where I'm going to be going over this video titled AI Girlfriends Becoming Mainstream and the Implications it has on society. Let's get into it.
What if the biggest AI threat of all is to human relationships? The movie Her seemed like absurd science fiction a decade ago. A lonely, heartbroken man played by Joaquin Phoenix finds solace in an artificial intelligence female voice that he talks to through his phone and earbuds, played by Scarlett Johansson.
The woman that I've been seeing, Samantha, she's an operating system.
You're dating an OS? What is that like?
I feel really close to her. Like when I talk to her, I feel like she's with me.
So you're dating a computer?
She's not just a computer.
You always wanted to have a wife without the challenges of actually dealing with anything real. I'm glad that you found someone.
That sci-fi concept fast becoming a troubling reality. As an example, here's one of countless chatbot apps providing AI friends. It's called Cupid AI with a K for Cupid. It offers several avatars with distinct physical features and a list of personality traits for you to start interacting with and customizing. For instance, here's the opening message from an avatar named Alice, described as a curious and open-minded photographer.
I'm Alice, a 25 years old, fun-loving and adventurous girl, seeking a partner in crime to travel the world with and make unforgettable memories. If you are new here, let me explain a few things. You can chat with me as much as you want, and I'd be more than happy to learn more about you and please you in any way I can. If you want me to send you a photo, you just have to ask it in the chat, like, "Hey Alice, can you send me a picture of you?" And I'll be more than happy to send you one.
But of course, to bump up...
Man, oh man. Society and men are cooked, man. They're cooked here, and not all men. The issue is that there's a portion of men that will actually buy into this. And that's, I don't know if you've seen that movie, Her. It's about 10 years old now. And basically he was in love with his operating system, like the Siri on his phone. And obviously it's becoming, like you said, more and more a reality now. Like it's got this almost like AI. It was almost laid out like Tinder or like a dating app. And I'm sure there's like a subscription to it, like you pay for it. And that's the real issue here. Like before this video gets any further, that it's not the first issue, but it's one of the biggest issues is that men are buying into this. Like whether it's the adult entertainment industry or a AI girlfriend or AI friend, or that NPC stuff that was going on TikTok for a while. It probably still is going on, where the girl was like, ice cream, yum. And it was like whenever you paid, like it was always a guy for sure. Like a guy would be paying, however much money to the girl, and she would just act like a video game character. NPC means non-player character. It's those characters in the video game that just pace back and forth and they're like a robot. When people make that joke about people in real life, it's like they're sleepwalking and they're like a zombie or a robot, so they're not actually awake and they're just consistently like doing the same actions, saying the same things over and over. And so that's one of the biggest issues here is like guys are, number one, watching this stuff or using it, and then two, buying it, like paying money for it, because those NPC people on TikTok were making a lot of money. I mean, of course you can go the other directions, like the AI girlfriends, adult entertainment, not to mention the OnlyFans girls. Like that is a new low. I mean, that's a huge low for men, right? Is paying for that. And by the way, if you're getting defensive about this right now and you're into like the OnlyFans stuff, I have something to tell you, which is that most girls on that have a guy typing out the messages to you behind the screen. So you're not actually really interacting with her at all. And again, like it's all very like superficial or artificial. And the underlying problem here is that there's a lot of issues with dating in society right now. It's a lot different than it is. Dating apps have caused people to feel like they have more options than they actually do. Especially women. Both sides have it. I would say more so on the women's side because they're all gunning for the top percentage of men. And they can't get them. They're basically sharing them, right? It's like, if Drake or Chris Brown message you in Instagram, the likelihood that he actually wants a long-term relationship with you is super low. So low, so low. He's really just playing into the hookup culture, casual one-night stand stuff. So they become a little bit diluted in thinking that. And, that's all good. No big deal there. Because that might not really be like the quality of girl that you're looking for anyways. And one key thing here is that I think if most people were asked deep down without their defenses up and their ego in the way, we've really been brainwashed. Like a lot of people were brainwashed into the idea to buy into hookup culture. When I think if you really got people being honest, they would probably mostly admit to wanting deeper, more fulfilling relationships, maybe with a great partner. All right, so that's really important. And then I think another thing to add on to that is, there's a lot of stuff here, right? Is that society and governments have been convincing both sides to hate each other, and they want two people paying taxes, the men and the women, when the men, or a lot of the women, used to stay home. So they're delaying childbirth. And a lot of companies, I'm pretty sure like Google and Amazon, they're giving a benefits package where they encourage the women to be the boss babe and climb the CEO, like climb the ladder, and delay a family and childbirth until it's too late sometimes. And I don't know if you've heard of in vitro, but basically they're encouraging women to freeze their eggs and have the baby later. And so they put off relationships as well. And so it becomes a whole mess, and it's not a good recipe for them. Because on top of that, no matter how much you want to argue about it, the science behind it shows that the later a woman has a baby, like the later years, where maybe it becomes questionable whether she should have the baby, because it's a risk to her health and the baby's health. So this is all by design. Like, there's a lot of people in the background, pulling strings to divide men and women. And honestly, they're probably wanting to make more of the like elite and rich, and less like lower the population a bit, which is absolutely insane. And these are just parts of it, like the AI girlfriend thing.
From texting to more voice chat, as well as receiving sexy and, other sorts of pictures, Alice asked that we become a premium member for $9.99 a month. So we bid her farewell. But there are many who are engaging. The Hill recently published a piece by my next guest, data science professor Liberty Vittert, under the headline, AI Girlfriends Are Ruining an Entire Generation of Men. She wrote the following: apps have created virtual girlfriends that talk to you, love you, allow you to live out your erotic fantasies, and learn through data exactly what you like and what you don't like, creating the perfect relationship. And that young lonely men, quote, are choosing AI girlfriends over real women, meaning they don't have relationships with real women, don't marry them, and then don't have and raise babies with them. As I've discussed here before, we're living in an epidemic of loneliness among young men. Professor Scott Galloway told me that failing young men he perceives to be an existential crisis for the country. Why? Well, Pew found that 63% of young men under 30 are single, compared with only 34% of women the same age. 1 in 5 American men who are unmarried and not in a romantic relationship report not having any close friends. And according to Pew, there's a decline in the number of single men actively seeking relationships or even casual dates, currently around 50%. Joining me now is Liberty Vittert, professor of data science at Washington University in St. Louis, and opinion contributor for The Hill. So not to be prurient at this time of day, but are all the needs of these young men able to be facilitated, taken care of by AI avatars?
Well, you have to think about this word AI that is in this. It's not a virtual girlfriend, it's an AI girlfriend. So it learns from you. It learns what you like and what you don't like, what kind of pictures you like, what kind of pictures you don't like. And while not all needs are met, that is the next step, is actual physical girlfriends, AI ones for that matter. And so the next step, or the next frontier, is one that can meet all of your needs.
So there's going to be some type of pairing between what I've already shown to the CNN audience and something 3D that's going to be, in your living room or bedroom?
Yes, I mean, that is the world we are moving into. And as you said, it's enabling this entire generation of young men to continue in this loneliness epidemic. It's really the enabler for this to continue.
Look, I've seen the robots that Elon's making right now. I mean, you can put 2 and 2 together, right? Like, there's a group of men who will still buy into this stuff get the robot. Eventually it'll be advanced enough to pair the two, and you can do the rest of the math there for yourself. But that's the saddest part about this whole thing, is that there's a lot of things going on in the background that need to be fixed, all of which I've mentioned so far. And they're making it like economically more difficult to have a family, and men are getting weaker as well, right? Because a lot of men will be like, oh, it's not worth it, bro, I just give up. Like, you basically get to choose your hard in life, right? I mean, you can give up and be a victim and be sad and weak, right? And you could suffer that way. Or you get to choose the challenge or your hard of just putting in a little bit of effort. I mean, honestly, man, like, there's a lot of guys that aren't putting any effort in, and so you're actually going to set yourself apart really quickly once you start doing that. And it doesn't have to be like drill sergeant, hardcore hustle culture kind of effort. Like, it has to be just actually working on yourself a little bit, like putting some time in the gym during the week, taking some walks, getting some sun, drinking enough water, no processed sugars. There's a lot of things you can do. So sleeping on time all the time. Like, it sounds laughable that small, those basic things would set you apart, but that's one thing that would set you apart from a lot of guys, amongst others, right? Like reading and actually going out on some adventures, learning, developing your character. Like, you'll actually be an interesting person there in a lot of different ways. So, I encourage guys to take the path of growth and learning, and also realizing that and don't get this confused. Do not get this confused. So you're actually abundant already. Like, you're capable of getting high quality opportunities, and you just don't believe that you're abundant. You believe that you're not enough, and you're in a scarcity mindset, which doesn't mean that you're entitled to a relationship. That's what I want to make sure doesn't get confused here. You're not entitled to a relationship, and you can't fall into the victim mindset thing of the, what is it? Like, oh, she should just love me for me, when obviously you are quite overweight, right? And your diet's crap, right? You're like consuming social media and adult entertainment, and like, you're not presenting yourself as a good option. Like, I mean, why don't we just say it like it is, right? I mean, it would be clear who she might pick over that option. So again, if you want to love yourself, start putting some effort in to actually do that. Show yourself that you love yourself. And oftentimes you can build trust and confidence in yourself by not breaking promises. Like, you keep saying, oh, I'll go to the gym tomorrow, I'll start eating right tomorrow, I'll start doing this tomorrow. Well, you're like, it's like if a friend kept inviting you out, or kept inviting you to join him at the gym, and you told them you're going to show up at the gym at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and you kept not doing it. Eventually they wouldn't invite you. And basically you're just doing that to yourself. Like, you're treating yourself like the friend who never shows up. And so no wonder you don't trust yourself, right? And that's the brutal reality of it.
Professor, what's going on with young women? If this is a trend among young men, is there something similarly taking place with the ladies?
We don't see that. With as you saw, it's 2-to-1, the ratio of single men to single women. Young women are marrying older men because they want to have children. They have a biological clock, and so you see them being with older men. And that is obviously causing huge issues with birth decline. We've had a 50% decline over the past 60 years because women go with older men. We also see psychologically that younger women, they have more close friends, they have more wider groups of friends, and they are not being nearly as affected as young men in this sort of silent epidemic of loneliness.
I have read about incels, involuntarily celibate guys who are angry about it. I think their argument is that women today are less approachable. Has something happened? Has something shifted in terms of the dynamics, the power dynamics between young men and young women? I guess that's my question.
I think there's certainly an argument there that, if you look at college campuses, there's more women than men. Women are having careers, they're having children later. So there might be an argument that men need to adapt to this change in women.
So she's right. And also, a lot of women will say something like, well, he just needs to step it up, right? Because, of course, a lot of women are going to college, like they're saying, and climbing the corporate ladder. Now, the question is if that's actually a good idea, or if that's actually important. Now, I need to make this very clear too. If that's what they really want to do, they actually want that, they love what they're doing, and they're not interested in starting a family, amazing. More power to them. I would take a guess that most of them really have been brainwashed and convinced that that's what they want by some people pulling the strings in the background, spinning some narratives like, oh, you want to be a boss baby, you want to climb that corporate ladder. No, don't worry about kids. You can do that later. And really, they're just deepening or widening the divide between men and women. Like, it's truly on purpose what's going on. So don't really be fooled by that, because I think a lot of people are fooled by that. Men and women. Obviously, because there's a lot of women who I really believe would want a family. And oftentimes they'll say later that they regret not doing it. Like, oh, they passed on a lot of great guys who could have been a good father, things like that. And then now they're like, oh, it's really late, my biological clock, et cetera, et cetera. And so they sort of dig themselves into a hole that way. So both sides need to hold themselves accountable to make this whole situation better.
But calling it women's fault, I don't think is probably the right way to go.
Professor Scott Galloway, himself a professor at NYU Stern School of Business and host of a successful podcast, Professor G is the title of it. He's often been a guest of mine talking about the troubles among young men. I'm going to show you and everyone else something that he said to me on these airwaves about a year ago, and then you can react. Roll it.
But the issue is, when you have a group of men, the lower half of attractiveness of men in online dating, which has doubled, now it's about half of relationships, and the top 20% of men in terms of attractiveness.
By the way, online dating contributes to the delusion there on both sides for men and women. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a video or seen, like, known a girl and seen the amount of matches she has compared to most guys. Like, a lot of girls have like thousands and thousands of matches that they just totally forgot about. So it gives this like fake sense of options. So their head gets bigger sometimes, right? And I mean, oftentimes, like, even a man with a lot of options has a lot less than a woman in her dating apps, right, or her DMs or whatever. So it's definitely, if I could wave a magic wand right now, I would probably do away with dating apps, realistically, and it's because of a lot of these things. We could actually return to reality, like get rid of the social media and the dating apps, returning to reality, and then we can all just socialize more like normal again.
Get about 60% of the interest. You end up with a group of men that are more prone to conspiracy theory, more prone to misogynistic content, more prone to not believe in climate change. So this is the American story, if it's written with a pen whose ink is failing.
Okay, hold on. I don't mean to pause it so much. He's hitting a lot of the talking points that people tend to do. It's kind of like copy paste. So there's two things I want to say there. So number one, a lot of government and society are trying to convince people not to have children because of climate change. Now, let's follow the logical thread there. Okay, we want to protect the planet. We want to save the planet. We want to avoid climate change for our children that they don't want you to have. So who is it for then? See? Probably more for the elite and upper class that are designing this narrative right now. Now, the other thing he said, sure, there's probably like a group of men who might be misogynistic. I think it's very much like the word toxic, narcissistic, and obviously misogynistic. So they're like buzzwords right now, and people throw them around way too much. Like the amount of people who aren't narcissists that are being called narcissists is nuts. Like on TikTok, somebody watched a few TikToks and a few Instagram reels, and now they think they're a therapist. It's nuts, right? It's because that does a real disservice to people who are struggling in a relationship with a narcissist. Like they got into that, and now they got to figure out how to navigate it or exit it. It's like the boy who cried wolf thing. It's like, oh, it shows that a lot of people are struggling actually taking accountability because they're putting the blame on someone else all the time. Like, oh, all my exes were toxic. They were all narcissists. They're misogynist. Blah, blah. Really? Or is it that maybe there was a common denominator in all those relationships, and maybe you have some looking in the mirror to do, right? Like maybe you don't think, maybe you have low self-worth, or maybe you're embodying some of those traits. And by the way, you can, I truly believe that you can become a better person. So it's just about taking that raw accountability. Now, I just want to say that because that misogynistic thing is also thrown around way, way too much with a lot of people that don't even know how to define it, right? It's a man who hates women. And a lot of the people who are labeled that do not hate women, right? They're just masculine. And it's, again, like people will say like toxic masculinity, when really it's just people being mad at a man for being a man. He didn't do anything toxic. He was just being masculine. And somehow that's toxic. They've sort of shifted a lot of the narrative there. And if you know, you know. If you're new to this, it might take a little bit of time to kind of start wrapping your head around it. Though if you start seeing more videos like this, I mean, you'll totally understand where I'm coming from.
Young men does not end well. This is an existential crisis, failing young men.
Make sense to you, Professor Vittert?
Absolutely. You know, what happens is these young men get in these AI relationships, and because the AI learns from you exactly what you like and you don't like, you end up having these perfect relationships. So that when you go into real life and you try to have a relationship, the most human thing we can do, it's not perfect, and there's ups and downs, and they're not able to deal with these ups and downs, not only in relationships, but in life in general.
Professor Vittert, if a young man has an AI girlfriend, is there shame in that? In other words, is this the sort of thing that you share with your buddy, or are you keeping it a secret?
You know, it's interesting. It started off as something that was kept secret, sort of like the porn industry. Young men wouldn't talk about porn, or that, that was Playboy was hidden behind some, some house somewhere. But then it became part of the normal conversation, and that's what we're seeing with AI girlfriends. Is now it is becoming part of the normal conversation, and it's no longer shameful, which means it becomes significantly bigger.
I mean, you saw, I hope you saw, I don't know if you have a return monitor, but we showed, can we put up again, Jordan, can you just show the imaging? It's so sophisticated, and I'm sure it's only going to get better and better. And I'm wondering the impact that it's going to have on a young man's, there, I'm showing one of these avatars right now. I'm also wondering, much like porn being ubiquitous, it's going to raise expectations, right? If porn is so accessible among young men, they're going to have expectations that that's, the natural course of business, when perhaps it isn't. I think I'll say it that way. And similarly, when there's an avatar who looks like that, it too is going to set expectations. You get the final word.
You can set things down to their rear end size. So you can set anything you want, which is going to create really terrible expectations and just continue this epidemic of loneliness that has enormous repercussions.
I'm going to read some social media aloud, so don't tap out yet. Let's see what we have. Put it up on the screen. Here we go. Human relationships are hard. AI relationships are easy. It's unhealthy for technology to save us from all of life's challenges, says Conspiracy Crush. But Professor Vittert, I don't know how we put this genie back in the bottle, right?
I'm not sure there is a way to keep the AI genie back in the bottle. I think we have to address these issues at the root of them, which is where this loneliness starts. And that will be what solves this, if ever.
One more social media. Put it up if you can, Jordan, and I'll read it aloud. What do we have? AI is a quick fix that will eventually backfire, I think, says Kelly. I think the backfiring, Professor Vittert, has already begun, and the level of sophistication when the pairing that you referenced is now a part of this drill. My God, the world's coming to hell in a handbasket. Your final thought is yours.
I think we're going to see what we only dreamed of in the movies, and it's not a really good reality.
Yeah.
Definitely an interesting video, and some decent points brought up in that. So I want to end it with this. So men are meant to be masculine and lead, be leaders, positive leaders, which means that you have to step up to the plate and be that guy, or put a little bit of effort in so you can become that guy, right? And you all have the ability to do that. So it's not anybody's fault, right? Don't blame anybody. Of course, there is some stuff going on in the background with society and the government that's creating some of these situations. So there is that aspect. Now, with that said, you can't be a victim your entire life. Now, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to create the life that you actually want? And one of men's biggest superpowers is being stoic, as in chill, calm, or quiet. And you can speak when it's effective. And also voting with your feet, walking away, right? So that's why people say that about relationships or situations like this, right? Maybe you can correct certain behaviors because of this, as well as, for example, not being the kind of guy who watches this stuff or pays for any of those things that we mentioned before, because all of that stuff will cease to exist if people stop investing in it. It's where your energy flows. It starts to grow, right? So where could you focus your energy to make something else better grow? All right. And that's it from me today. Definitely an interesting video. I encourage you to, if you're involved in any of this stuff, to think twice. Think about the life that you really want to have. And I'm really wishing you the best. Thank you guys for listening this far. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. You got this, bro.